means is, you know, if there's somebody's name on the cover, edited by Ellen Datlow or Terry Whitman, or edited by Ellen Datlow, or edited by Joe Lansdale or Keith Lansdale. Those are the people who get the stories, you know, who solicit the stories from the authors, or collect the stories from unnamed contributors who shall remain, you know, unnamed to the guilty, or whatever. You know, those names on the cover. I mean, I've edited anthologies where my name is on the cover, and that means that I was responsible for soliciting the stories and also for the content of the stories. You know, even though the authors are responsible for the content of their own stories, there are times when even the best author doesn't see everything about his or her story completely clearly. Sometimes it just, I mean, you know, when I write, I'm just like any other writer, except not as good usually. But the fact is, you know, I'm an editor, and I'm a really tough editor. I make people responsible for what they say, make sure that it makes sense, that they justify what's going on, one way or another. I don't mean you have to spell everything out or anything like that, but that the story works, or the novel works. And there are times when, you know, the writer's writing a story, and they know exactly what they want the story to be like. And sometimes what's up here doesn't all get down there, or too much of it gets down there, or something, and you need to say, okay, is this what you meant? Is this what you meant? Or you know, if you meant that, you know, this doesn't seem to make sense. Can you explain this to me? What exactly did you mean here? Can you clarify? I mean, I'm famous for writing in my son's handwriting, because he's going to be a doctor, and my handwriting is often incomprehensible. And that's because I'm writing, you know, on trains, in airplanes, you know, in cramped bathrooms or hotel rooms, or in bed, you know, late at night. I can barely see when I'm writing, and, you know, oh, I hope they can read that. But you know, but I'll write things like awk, A-W-K means awkward, or W-W means wrong word. Now, I don't know what the right word is, because it's not my story, but I know it's not the right word. So, you know, I'll ask things like, or I'll say clarify, or vague, you know, and then point to a circle on a little section there, because there's something that could be read two ways. And, you know, my paradigm is this. When you're reading, you don't want to be disturbed by the knowledge that you're actually reading, okay? When you're reading, you just want to experience the story. You don't want to be interrupted by, what? What the hell is that? You know, you don't want to be jerked out of the story into reality. You know, the story it's an alternate reality, and it's not true. And really, I mean, he'll tell you, he's making it up, I think. I hope. I really hope. A little. I go to sleep praying that you make it up. But you know, it's the reality of the story is its own thing, and anything that jerks the reader upright, what, and takes you out of that reality, to me, is bad, because it's disrupting that narrative flow that is really what you want. And so that's what I'm looking for, and I think that's what any good editor is looking for. And so, you know, lazy son of a bitch, you know, you're cheating your readers if you do that. You know, you got to
probably have coming to them, so
That's a great attitude. Yeah. You're my idol.
So it sounds to me as though, to return to the question of the panel, there is not a difference for you between editing a novel versus editing an anthology, except a question of scale.
Well, there is. Of course there is. I mean, I was going to say, you've done both, you know. And, you know, when you edit a novel, I mean, there's only one author involved. So, you know, you do. There's some things that you have to do for anything, you know, for any bit of prose, whether it's long or short. But then again, you know, editing an anthology, you have choices to make. You know, with a novel, there's one writer, you know, unless somebody ghostwrites it, which is, I don't go there. You know, I've never had, I mean, I know there are people, like Margaret Truman did not write all those mysteries, okay? I know, it's a terrible, I'm sorry to disillusion you on a Sunday morning. William Carrington did. But, you know, for the most part, and you know, and you do, okay, here's one that's really going to get you all. You do William Shatner.
Was that Goulart or who was that?
Well, Goulart wrote a bunch of them, and so did J. Michael Reeves and
That's right.
yeah, like that. But yeah,
But Sulu wrote hits, right?
I don't know. I don't know. You know, only if there were gay characters in it, you know. But otherwise, he writes political stuff, you know. But for the most part, you know, you read something by an author. I mean, well, since it's 10 o'clock in the morning, I'll digress. I edited Jack Williamson's last 8 novels, and it was just a great honor. And when he wrote the last one, he was 96. Stonehenge Gate, and when we published it, it was 97. And it was an analog serial, and Stan Schmidt, being a slug, excuse me, not a slug, he is a slug, didn't really edit the book when he serialized it, and it really needed work. I mean, Jack was 96 years old, and you know, he did a pretty good first draft, but it had holes in it, and it was sloppy, and Stan Schmidt said, "This is great. It's an analog serial." And I got a manuscript and I said, "He's publishing it this way?" I asked Jack, I said, did he make any changes? No, he pretty much took it the way it was. And I thought, wow, you know, Stan's earning a salary for this. And so I said, well, I hope you don't mind if I ask you some questions about it. He said, no, that's fine. Anything I can do to make it better is good with me. So I did ask him questions, and he revised, and he gave me a great revision. You know, I don't get paid enough to rewrite, okay? You know, editors don't. I mean, you guys are editing things, you know, when you're a writer, when you
Wait, you're supposed to make money doing that?
Well, as the writer,
Oh.
you know, but I don't get paid enough to rewrite. I took that line from an older editor years ago, and it's true. You don't get paid enough to rewrite, believe me. I get paid little enough if I figure out the number of pennies per hour. But, so I ask my writers to rewrite if there are holes. And I don't force them. I don't say, you know, do this or die, or I won't accept it. But, you know, there's a certain pride in craft that the writers, almost without exception, very, very, very few exceptions. I mean, I can count them on the fingers of one hand, the number of books I've edited where somebody has actually said, well, I mean, and it's always been, on the very few occasions, you may have a point, but I don't care. Ursula Le Guin said that to me. He said, my readers expect my characters not to make sense. But she was traumatized by an editor, by Don Walheim, when she was very young. And she was really, really traumatized. So she has a tremendous distrust of editors by and large because of that experience. I mean, if somebody took the last 20 pages of your first novel and just left them out, you would do that too. You know, and that's what happened with her first novel. But, so I can understand that. But you know, she's really the exception to the rule. I can't think of maybe except one other writer who's ever not really responded to what I wanted her to do. It was Dan Simmons with Carrying Comfort. And that was because Ed Bryant told him that not to touch a hair on the head of that manuscript. I found that out 15 years later. And when Ed told me that, I said, did he ever show you my editorial letter, my 40-page single-spaced editorial letter? This is a big, fat book, and you read it. Have you ever read that book, Carrying Comfort? Yes. Yeah, big, fat, bloated book. And it had great stuff in it. I worked my ass off helping him concept the book. And when I told Ed, I said, you know, why did you tell him that? He said, well, I thought it was great. You ever see my editorial notes? No. I'm going to send them to you. I sent him the 40-page letter. He wrote me back saying, I'm so sorry. Because, I mean, I don't do this for my health. I mean, really, I would much rather put a book into production without touching it. Really, I really would. And there are authors who I've done that with. I mean, Kate Wilhelm comes to mind. Geez, I've never seen anybody who I've worked with who's more nearly perfect than Kate Wilhelm. I published 3 books by her, and one, I think I changed one word, asked her to change one word in one of them, and the other 2, not one word. I mean, that's really amazing to be that completely controlled. But you know, but most authors, there's something somewhere that they haven't completely thought through, or they thought it through, but something fell out. You know, like a word here or there, or some bit of logic that needs to be there that makes everything work. That they got up here, but it just didn't get to the page. You know, or they're over-explaining. You know, they're not trusting themselves, the power of their words, or the ability of their readers to figure it out. And so they go into greater detail and they're beating people over the head. And nobody really wants to be beaten over the head with stuff, I don't think, you know. I mean, you know, there are people like you, Chris, who are lazy readers instead of lazy editors, who may want to be bludgeoned over the head with, you know, the bald facts of the situation, you know. They only want to read Terry Goodkind, you know. We'll tell you exactly what you're supposed to think, whether you want to know it or not, okay? And I edited Terry Goodkind's first 6 books, but, you know, no one's perfect.
I'm down the hallway right now.
So, right.